Visitor 223 asked on the subreddit for Excel for a simple, well, basically it's a payment system for invoices and how to create something to import to the bank. And his question basically was, I want to have a list of invoices and then decide if we are paying them. And I created a little spreadsheet for that. So first of all, they want to have a list of invoices. And one of the things you do always with this type of stuff is you need to have a unique ID. And in this case, you have a supplier ID. And once you enter your supplier ID, you automatically will have the name pulled into that. So if I do a new invoice and I say this is by 2, if I copy down this one, that works as well. Then I can enter an amount and I can enter a due date, let's say 1st of June, and I can also make this one in a way that it actually has an if formula, so that I can copy down this formula down, and it will not show if there is no entry here. But once I have this is the main list where you enter all of your data, and I recommend freezing also those panes. And then you go to the part where you list all of your suppliers and you determine with yes and no where you actually want to pay this month. So this is how I understood his question. And for this now, we want to be able to filter out the items we want to pay this month, and for that you add an additional column, which I've put here in number 1. And the formula is pretty simple. If there is something in D3, if D3 is filled, then actually do a VLOOKUP of this supplier name into my list over here. It's a simple VLOOKUP. Look up supplier number 3 in this array, and if this array returned the third column is a yes in this case, and as you can see here, yes and no. You can also add conditional formatting to this whole thing, so you have an overview. Why do I add it here? Well, simply because we are now going to use the filter option, and I recommend that when you go onto data and filter, you right click and say add to quick access toolbar, because you're going to use it quite a lot. And in this case, we just start in here, we add a automatic filter to it, and now we are going to be filtering everything which is yes, because those are all the suppliers we are paying this month. And the good thing about the filter is actually that when you select it now, and you can make macros out of that and record macros, but it's easier in the beginning to do it manually. You go to something I call create CSV, and here you paste them specifically as values. Now this one doesn't look as pretty, and this is also where a lot of the questions will be coming in, because this is just the list of vendors we are going to be paying this month. And now here you would create a version of the import you need for your bank, where you specifically say, okay, these are the columns we are using to, I'll just do some color over here. This is where I would color and put in the entries from my invoices, and over here I would start creating the information I need for the bank, because the bank is likely wanting to have the name. This would be simply the name, and then you would pull in via VLOOKUP from, and this is why you always have this kind of information available. You're looking up the supplier numbers from the bank details, marking this, and in this case we want to have number 4 back, so it's semicolon, in my case 4. We always want to use false with VLOOKUP, and there's your banking detail. And now you can mark this down. And as you can see, it runs into errors. This is where you, in the beginning, make your formulas in a way, if VLOOKUP, if there's something in this line in the front, then do the VLOOKUP, otherwise return 0. It's the example I used in the bank details. And here you would construct everything you actually need for your import for your bank. And again, at a later point, you would create a macro where you say, okay, I checked everything is fine. And then when you saved this file, what I would actually do is use the macro to take this sheet, move or copy, copy it to a new book, create as a copy, and then inside of this new version, I would mark everything, copy everything, paste as values, because now it's then only values and no lookups anymore. And then you can remove the unnecessary things and you save it under the desired file name, and then you have your import for your bank ready-made. Another thing I would recommend when you use this kind of working is that once you have done this and said, okay, this is perfect, we have sent this to the bank, you take exactly this one over here and add all of this information into a new sheet, which I call paid. Because here you again just throw everything over and format it a little bit differently. But then you go back to your invoices, and now you can have a secondary column, removing all of the filters, is where you do the VLOOKUP against your paid sheet, because then you immediately can see, have we already sent it to the bank? And make sure that you have the workflow. So this would be the very, very simple version how I would do it. I would start very simple. I would use step-by-step more information, and just from a workflow perspective, anytime you have controlling things, where you go and you do control things, I like to add them in the front and on the top, because this way you can always add additional columns like a comment field or whatever without disturbing any of your formulas. I hope that gave you some ideas how to start such a system, and good luck.